Share a little bit about what endurance racing is.
So it's a fairly new organized sport. It wasn't really sanctioned until the 50s, 60s.
Okay.
It started basically on the West Coast. The cavalry enactments on the East Coast were pretty strong, where they'd ride, for 2 or 3 days at a time. But the touted hardest race in the world is the Tevis Cup, which starts on the east side of the Sierra Nevadas, goes over the old Pony Express Trail all the way down into Auburn, California.
Okay.
And it was started by the good old boys sitting around coffee one day wondering if today's horse was as tough as yesterday's horse.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, we'll just ride 100 miles and see.
Yeah.
And they did it under the full moon in July. And by George, they did it. There were 6 of them that did it the first time. And they loved it so much, they said, let's do it again next year. And after a couple, 3 years of doing it, the women wanted to join. They're like, oh no, it's way too tough for the women to do something like this. But the main instigator, Wendell Roby's, his girlfriend was pretty insistent. So the women started riding it now. And as the organization goes, it's probably about 60-70% woman.
Yeah.
And I equate it to the women are natural for the endurance sport because we're nurturers. You bring a horse along slow, it takes time, a lot of training, and then eventually, it takes 4 or 5 years to get a horse ready to even do a 100-miler.
Okay.
So you've got to be very patient.